In fact, one of my favorite moments in all of this is we were moving into a new co-working space, and I was taking a phone call outside it, and we were a small team. We were like 10 people, 12 people, right? This is 18, I think, at some point, or 17 late. And there was somebody who was outside. So I was taking a phone call, and somebody on the outside on the streets telling somebody on the phone, "So danzo kar dena," right? And I was like, not bad, yeah. Just a sweet moment to always remember.
Hey Kabir, thanks a lot for taking our time to chat with us. Really excited about this conversation.
Thank you so much for having us, Aviral. This is really interesting.
Kabir, would love to start from the beginning of your journey, and you should really touch upon the time when you were hand delivering stuff at Donzo, but that's the later part of the journey. Where did you grow up? Early days, any influences in entrepreneurship? When did you decide that you wanted to start up? And if you could walk us through that journey, it would be fantastic.
Awesome. I grew up in like a really small place. I grew up in a place called Silvassa. It's the capital of Dadra and Nagar Haveli. It's a union territory.
Right.
Entire schooling is there. Yeah, like spent the longest time of my life there. I spent 18 years of my life there. Parents have their own story, but I think dad's been a little bit of what you call figure in life, because he actually came to Bombay with, it's a very rags to riches stories that used to happen in the 70s, where you had very little money in Calcutta, came in a train, had 15 rupees, then went ahead and what you call learned how to do work, and by the time what you call he unfortunately passed away early. He passed away in his what you call late 40s, and by that time he had like built up a whole business of his own, which was quite amazing. But yeah, so that's really maybe the only influence that really exists. Small family, single kid. Did schooling in Silvassa, engineer out of Bombay University, MBA out of Narsee Monjee in Bombay. At campus, went to Airtel, the telecom operator, in their what you call management trainee program. Um, and did sales for a while, and then wanted to do product. So then started doing product. There wasn't really much product happening in India in 2009, 10. And so Airtel had really a product team that they would build product over telecom interfaces, WAP, USSD, SMS, voice. But very interesting time to actually go learn how to build product. I did that for a couple of years time. Then quit, didn't do anything for a while. As you will realize, I seem to make a habit out of it, but just I think bummed around for about a year plus. And then I think what you call one of my colleagues from Airtel and me then started up on a simple thought regarding location-based couponing. It basically meant that, hey, you go down like a busy street in India, say Linking Road in Bombay, and one of the local retailers can send you an SMS-based coupon. Think of it as Groupon supercharged by telecom location. Right? And you could walk in the next 60 minutes time and get like a 10% discount. And the reason why we would end up winning was, one, it was an SMS. Second, it worked on telecom networks. You didn't require an iOS or an Android device in 2011. And generally, there was a lot of offtake of what you call people wanting to go out and figure out what more they could do with their mobile phones. And so that started doing really well. I remember it got a lot of scale across the country. But we figured out that the couponing funnel overall is actually not the best. People who come looking for incentives tend to also what you call leave when those incentives tend to start becoming lesser as customer behavior goes. So people who are getting up in the morning and saying, hey, where can I get my next discount, might not be the best customer set to retain. And so then we pivoted the business around looking at the retention cohorts, etc. That we became a more small merchant CRM system, where small merchants could go ahead and what you call manage their customer relationships from an engagement perspective, as well as them coming back to the store and transacting more often. Did that, we actually went ahead and got product market fit, became profitable in the cities that we were functioning. We were funded by Bharti and SoftBank. Bharti was Airtel's parent company, and this is SoftBank in their earlier avatar, when they used to do much smaller checks. And Hike, the messaging service, basically bought us out. We had common investors. not really an exit, but a soft landing for the team. They integrated the whole what you call local merchant experience into the what you call the messaging platform at Hike. I figured, okay, starting companies at the age of 26, 27 in India, I think needs a lot of unlearning. Learned a lot of things which should have done differently. Could have learned faster, but it's just an experience that I think was a massive learning experience. I think what it brought more was the fact that the humility to keep learning, because unfortunately, I think in schools, in colleges, in what you call first corporate jobs, etc., there's too much of a net. Like people will protect you. There's not too much failure that goes around. Right, and I think that first instant basically went ahead and said that if you don't have the humility to keep learning, there is no net out there in the world, unless you're part of some other structure. Didn't do anything for a year and a half, bumped around again, and that was actually a really personal problem. I used to live in Gurgaon before Bangalore, and for me, getting my what you call things in order on a weekly basis is a daily, weekly, weekend challenge, because I'm fairly structured and I like stuff done in a particular fashion. And I remember the first time I tried Uber, or I heard about Uber, right? And I actually honestly think we should all give credit to Uber for the amount of on-demand that actually exists in all of our lives, because they, I think, really figured it out, saying, "Oh, this is possible." And so if you could press a button and get a cab, the thesis was pretty simple, saying, okay, why don't you press a button and get everything else? Why is that not possible? Right? If it's in your city, it should come. There's no reason why it should just be a cab, because mobile phone should be able to move everything around. And that was it. That was a really simple thought. Figured from the first business that wouldn't start building tech and product early on, because it sounds like a great idea in my head, but who the heck knows if customers really want it or not. So had 3 people in Bangalore whom I could actually tell them about this idea, and told them that, why don't you text me on WhatsApp? I will do this for you. You don't have to worry about anybody randomly doing it. And then started running down things for them. Right. In 4 months, it really caught on fire. We acquired about 10,000 odd customers on WhatsApp, and which meant there have been days where I have just gone about starting deliveries at 5 in the morning and delivering till 1 in the night. And there is no logic behind all of this. This was not to build a business. This was not to figure out saying, we will change the world like this. None of that. This was just for the joy of customers being thrilled at the end of the day. Because every time you went and actually delivered something to people, people are just really deliriously happy, and they would tell each other, and that was just amazing to see, where people would actually go out and very consciously tell each other, saying, "Hey, just try this. You can message this number; it will get done." And so that was a little bit of a sense of the fact that maybe the market is not just me or the 3 people that I know. There are other people who would like to be able to use this. And since then, the last 4 years been a little bit of a daze in terms of building stuff out. Took that WhatsApp business. We got our first round of seed capital literally because our users used to rave about us. They used to, my God, they used to rave about the product. I think now also they do, just the average mass is not going to rave about it. Right? The percentage of bragging customers at that point might have been 50%. Now it's maybe 15%. But yeah, I think so. What that did was, it actually really got chatter going, in terms of saying, there's this service that has insane word of mouth, and it showed up on our retention curves, frequency curves, and all of that, right? And the fact that we kept organically growing without having spent a dollar on growth capital, so that raised our first round of seed capital. Post that, we figured out as to what business this really was. It was the business of 3 big things. It was the business of people wanting to ship products from point A to point B within the city. The second use case was people wanted to go ahead and buy from the local stores. Right, so you knew of a store in the city that you wanted to purchase something from, so could Dunzo make that transaction more efficient because it had so many people on the ground. And third was people wanted to buy the daily and weekly essentials, which means your local, what you call, neighborhoods have these stores that you have been used to purchasing from. People wanted to figure out a faster, better, and hopefully more convenient way of going ahead and transacting with these stores and getting the items delivered for themselves. And I think I think what we have figured out over the last 4 years is that there's actually a massive market. It's most likely going to be about $1 trillion of spends over the next 5 years time. It is the business of people buying and selling. We don't think all of it will actually come online or get delivered, but a significant chunk of the top 10 or 15% of customers in this country will adopt a delivery first lifestyle. And in a delivery first lifestyle, you will see a chunk of these transactions move onto digital platforms. We are just trying to make sure that that digitization can happen faster. The long-term vision continues to be the fact that, and I think I remember articulating this 4 years back when we were actually raising our first round of capital. If you were to really extrapolate 5 years out, right, or 10 years out, there shouldn't be a whole experience of searching something and then figuring out how to actually close a transaction. Right, search and the transaction can actually be really close to each other, especially in a local scenario, which is why if you realize a lot of what you call commodity searches and ad dollars actually have moved to Amazon now, right? Because really at the point of what you call a transaction. Similarly, in the local sphere where people are transacting for much more heavily frequent use cases or slightly more long tail, right? Both of them can actually either start from search or from the frequent basket and actually go ahead and cover the entire spectrum of local, because a lot of the things that you need and want to buy in your life are actually available within your city. We want to be able to make sure that those items all get instantly delivered to you. And while that happens, we'll also go ahead and create a delivery ecosystem in this country that is like a neural network, or think of them as rails, which actually go ahead, you put an item over here and it pops up over there in whatever X amount of time at about $50. Imagine literally having a courier service within your city that delivers within $50 within the same 2 hours. Once you build that capability, then everything that needs to travel in your city can travel on top of that, because at $50 it goes ahead and becomes cheaper than actually anybody else themselves going and doing it. But that's the business, that's the long-term goal. The long-term goal is to make sure that customers what you call start leading a digital first life, and their most boring transactions in their lives actually become a lot more convenient because of something like Danzo.
Right. I think you compressed a lot into
most of my job, Aviral.
Yeah. I wanted to double click on a few things. The first is, why did you decide to start a company, and what was the thought process there? Like, a lot of our listeners and a lot of people here are aspiring founders. I know a lot of people say that, hey, I had this idea and things like that, but I've generally seen a lot of founders who I work with and invest in, they just go with the flow and it happens kind of organically. So that's question number one. The second is, there was a huge hyperlocal buzz in 2015-16, and then it all collapsed. Were you worried about that when you were starting Dunzo?
The first one, let me take in terms of what you call starting companies, and then remember the second one, because that one's off-ask question.
Yes.
I don't know. So I'm terrible at giving advice, and I don't try and even hunch it. Very much a believer of the fact that, if I believe, or like at least if I thought that, something what you call should exist in the world, right, let's try making it. And I've not honestly done too many things. I'll be honest. I went to an Airtel and did what I did over there. It's a very structured scenario. You do sales, you do product, you move on. The first company was a lot of learning, and it didn't do really well. And this is literally the third thing that I've done, where I've just organically gone with curiosity. And so that's really what it is. The curiosity of saying that, hey, as a consumer, how much more convenient can something get? How much more better can something get? And we will chase the better till ad infinitum, and we won't stop, right? Making it better for our customers. And just that's what we obsess about. We don't go ahead and think about too much else. There's no reason to, the company is a construct to be able to deliver something to a customer, right? The company is not that's not really the part that is the most relevant part of it. The most relevant part of it is really as to what the customer experiences at the end of the day, and is it getting better for them continuously. So that's really what kept driving it. I don't think the idea was to ever start a company. The idea was to never raise capital. Those were not the motivations,
Right.
fortunately
Customer
or
was front and
unfortunately.
center always for you. I think even when you were the customer was front and center for you always. Even,
Yeah, I think that's a much better motivation.
right, right. No, absolutely. When you were describing your first 4 months, you wanted people to feel electrified. You wanted them to feel
Yeah.
wowed, right? That was what was driving you. No, that makes a lot of sense. And the second question, more on the, choosing a model and what to build on, and then we'll go into our topic, which is hyper local delivery. But in 2014, 2013, there were a lot of companies that were getting funded. There were, I think, 30, 40 at one point of time. In 2016, everything just went to uh, gas, air, ash. Out of that, actually, Swiggy was born. So you can say that there's some creative destruction. But I'm sure you would have seen that. What did that bother you? Did you care, or was the pull from customers so strong that you didn't bother?
I think it's important to navigate the macro. You can't necessarily completely ignore the macro, uh, but and I think we tend to paint very broad strokes in terms of spaces, etc. Right? At the end of the day, there are only so many ideas that exist out there in the world. At the end of the day, it comes down to execution, and that's really the honest truth. And so we just went ahead and made sure that during that during that period. And by the way, that period's not over. I'll come to that in a little bit, right? Is You keep focusing on what the customer wants and just make sure that you keep delivering for what they want. And at the end of the day, you do need a little bit of luck. You can't necessarily ignore that, right? And you do the things that are in your control or the inputs that are in your control. Hopefully, everything else plays out. Just to be able to add a little bit regarding what you call funding environments, existence, and this, right? We build especially internet businesses, right? And let's be honest, we are not necessarily pure play internet businesses. We are a lot more technology enabled businesses, right? If we are not paranoid about our about our existence in the next 2 to 3 years time, we are not pushing the ball further enough in terms of what is good for the customer. And so I remember one of my investors saying this one, and I really like the line. It's like the paranoid survive and win. And I actually agree, because at the end of the day, like, why are we doing these internet businesses? Because the value of putting a factory is gone, right? They allow you to go ahead and be a lot more innovative, competitive, win at significantly lower resources. If you do have an innovative idea, otherwise there's no real genuine fun in trying to do internet businesses if you think it has to play out the same way that it's played out before this in the industrial revolution, right? So in a scenario like that, we are paranoid about our existence in 2 or 3 years time. We're excited about what we are doing in the next 6 to 12 months, but we're paranoid about what happens in the next 2 to 3 years time. And you should, and like, it's just philosophy. I'll also be honest, the nicer way to say this is what Amazon says. This is day one. The day one philosophy is exactly this. It's about saying, what you have built doesn't matter at all. It's what is going to come after this is most likely, and whether you keep innovating for your customers or not. That I think is really valuable. So no, that's at least how the way we'd like to be able to think.
I really like that kind of concept of being paranoid about your existence. It's amazing, and would like to dive into it a bit more and maybe go back to the early days. Our topic for this episode is handling hyperlocal delivery in India. We all know that it's a challenging space to compete in. So would like to start off with, what did Dunzo do differently early on, when you guys were starting off? I mean, we all know the story of starting on WhatsApp, but there were a lot of other people in the space trying to do similar stuff. I guess, how did you differentiate yourself?
I think two things that are really what you call close. And I'll also be honest, I don't know if there's the right or the wrong answer. This is what we did. right? And so the jury's out. We'll all know. The first one was, I don't think we get up thinking about competition on a daily basis at all. It's such a huge market. How do you get up in the morning thinking about competition? Customers don't think like that. Customers don't buy thinking, I buy from them, I won't buy from them. They don't, right? They're just looking for the most convenient way of being able to solve something. The same customer has multiple brands in their lives. Everybody is a small share of their wallet. Unless you're not like a mobile phone company or a cable operator, or an internet connection, which also I'm guessing all of us now have to after working from home this much, right? It's not like people are just like obsessed with your brand, and I think we are far more obsessed about the things that we do than customers, right? And so just like, yes, people should use everybody. They should use us more. And we will go ahead and provide a better quality of service than everybody else. That's the only thing that we can do as inputs. The second thing is, I think we understood the economics of this business really well, really quickly. Right? It's just a really low margin business. Right? And in a low margin business, and the rules of physics now don't change as much. At the end of the day, how much ever technology you put into it and how much ever what you call algorithms get smarter, at the end of the day, there is physics involved. People have to move on the ground to be able to make stuff happen, and they need to be compensated for the amount of time that they ended up spending on it. In a scenario like that, I'm assuming when people go ahead and try to grow faster than the economics of the business allows for, it tends to be a lot more capital destruction than value creation, right? And when I think we figured that out, I think we changed our approach to the problem. We figured that the better way to actually go ahead and do this was to not necessarily, and it's our opinion, and we try to build companies slightly differently, of going ahead and building what you call a user experience that was supported by economics that are going to get supported at steady state also, rather than saying, these economics are not going to work, but let me just create a habit and then see where it goes in life, right? And so I think that's the two things that we have done. We're just fundamentally focused on user experience, and second, made sure that once we understood the economics of the business, never spend capital or over incentivize any part of behavior creation, because either you add value, then behavior will get created, or you don't add value, behavior won't get created. But selling 200 rupee item at 150 and creating behavior is not something that we understand, and so we tend to not do that as much.
So that's fascinating. So how did you go about acquiring customers? I mean, there was no like referral bonus or,
So we have done we have done three things till date, right? So we have run a referral program. Of course, everybody runs a referral program. Why wouldn't you run a referral program? Right? It's the first thing that every growth team tries, and we saw what you call great usage, but it also comes with a lot of understanding of how much margin your category has and what you can really incentivize that behavior for, right? There are really only, I don't know, actually, there could be other third one also, but I've seen two versions of growth. And I'm sure if you also read up, you'll realize two versions of growth, right? One is what started happening on the internet between 2015 onwards, I think, where, and I'm guessing some people over here might have read the book Blitzscaling, right? Where we'll beat everybody and, we'll win. It's a school of thought. It's definitely worked for a lot of people. It also comes from the fact that there is a lot of private capital that's available, and it is chasing returns. And this is pretty much the only sector that has returns that are meaningful at this point of time globally, right? So absolutely should chase it. The one that at least we are big fans of is so now Amazon never grew 3x in a year, by the way, ever in the last 25 years. Right? They've actually grown 30 to 35% compounded for the last 25 years. It's just steadily just do that thing and grow in a compounding fashion year on year. We just prefer that one. We believe that that's a lot more capital efficient. And it allows us to keep, it also fits with the ethos of what's the first thing that we want to do. We are not fixated about growth, we are fixated about user experience first. And so because you're fixated about user experience first, it fits in a lot more with the fact that, what exactly is that, what is the growth model that will go ahead and drive that DNA or behavior. So that's the one that says, we'll go ahead and what you call grow consistently year on year, because a large part of our growth comes from us going ahead and building better experiences. And then, of course, we do try and add stuff on top. So we have, of course, acquired customers digitally. We have run pamphlets. We have put up a few billboards once in a while. We have gone ahead and run incentives on the platform. But I think once we figured those out, I think over the last 18 months time, we have actually gone ahead and removed a chunk of them. And that's not really very common. But literally for the last 15 or 18 months, we have actually completely crushed any kind of incentives or user acquisition on the platform, because we figured that a much better way to go ahead and grow was just us going ahead and so we also get like a massive organic funnel, which is because of the brand that has gotten created and for the value that we are delivering to customers. But we have gone ahead and taken that organic funnel, made sure that our what you call existing customers have a better experience each time they come and order, and that's growing at about 100% CAGR year on year, and without actually spending any money on growth. So we will spend money on growth. We'll get to it at some point. We will. But I think the idea was to be able to actually go make sure that the economics of the business works really well. We understand why we are spending money, and we have been at fault. We have gotten lucky. We have made mistakes in which money got spent incorrectly. And I very humbly accept the fact that our investors were really nice enough to go ahead and say कि हाँ गलती हो गया, and we'll go ahead and help you guys around this time, but don't make this mistake again, which I think is just basic, right? You should never make the same mistake again. And once that happened, then I think once that money got spent out or made that mistake on, I think we have learned and made sure that we don't make the mistakes again, which is what we are doing now.
Oh, just amazing. I think it's so true for so many things in life: consistency and just gradually improving, incrementally, much more sustainable rather than.
On that one, I have a small point, by the way. Like, yeah. I believe that people are going to buy like this for the next 25 years. Right. And today we deliver on an average in 25 minutes time. Hopefully at some point of time in the next 5 years, we will reach a point where we can find deliveries reaching you in 5 minutes time. Right. And it is only going to get faster. The selection is only going to get bigger, and there's only going to be a way to keep making it cheaper because technology allows for it. In a 25, 30-year marathon of people just buying better, that's really what the business is, buying and shipping. It's not really rocket science, right? In a 25-year journey of what you call trying to ship and make people buy better, the timing of growth has to be very smartly done, and it has to be done from the perspective that it is really, really long-term focused. Because the short term can, for the lack of a better, be very sexy, right? Because who doesn't like growing at like 70% month on month? But it's in the really large marathon of trying to build at least businesses of this nature, which are really about transactions and people going out and doing things that they either ways do offline, but finding a significantly better online way to do it. We figured that a better way to do it was to actually just be really patient with the way we would actually do stuff. So it's just a little bit of a cultural philosophy at the organization.
A lot of kind of dense insights packed into that. Just to kind of wrap it up, what metrics did you look for in the early days? I mean, you spoke about the importance of economics, and you said that you started to understand your business. So how were you measuring it?
And this business is actually pretty straightforward. There are only 3 lines, right, in terms of money. The first one is, what is our gross margin? Gross margin is very straightforward. What is the delivery fee that we made per order? What is the commission that we might have made because somebody actually bought something from a merchant on the platform, and deduct delivery fee from it, which is what the partner got paid per order, and we get our gross margin. We have always believed that running a negative gross margin business is not very logical, because this is the cost of getting this to you, right, as a customer. So if we actually lose money at that gross margin line, that's us going ahead and discounting the basic economics of this business, which is not going to make sense. Because why will a customer who is suddenly used to paying you $20 going to pay you 40 to make the same experience work? And I also think it's not fair to the customer, because why create a habit at 20 and then go ahead and change the pricing at 40? So that's the first line. The second one is whatever we spent on support and marketing, which is support per order, payment gateway charges, and marketing charges, right? That gives us the second line. And post that third is whatever our corporate costs look like. Gross margin, we have tried to be always positive. We have made our mistakes, and once we corrected that, we never went ahead and we never went back. There is one nuance though. we look at the gross margin as an overall business, saying on the overall business across multiple cities will be positive. What that means is that our best cities generate close to 14-15% of gross margin. We take that cash that we generate, literally a couple of crore rupees a month, and then plow it back into our new cities, where we still need to lose money for delivery because we don't have enough order volume for the delivery cost to drop. Basically, like the delivery partner is running maybe only 6 or 7 orders a day. So the cost of delivery is really high. But as the volume grows over there, the cost of delivery will drop and it will start showing the same economics that we have in our most mature cities. The second is at the marketing line, we have gone ahead and size box the amount of money that we'll spend. We will not go ahead and spend 4, 5, 6% of the GMV that we are driving at all. We at best spend about 0.2%. And we believe that steady state also you have only 1% going on within that what you call margin to be able to actually spend, because as a marketplace that's really what your margin is. So yeah, we will go ahead and keep those rules and keep growing them based upon that, rather than, and the amount of compounding is really important, because the what you call the platform compounds on a month-on-month basis. You just have more cash to work what you call make work on a monthly basis. But that's the two lines, that's it. Uske baad corporate cost is size box, saying this is the amount of money that we'll pay on salaries, we'll never spend more than that. Literally, I think we have tried to size box it over the last year time, which means people joining in a particular fashion, or we go ahead and make sure that lesser people do more, and we plan to go ahead and try and figure out a way to size box it over the next couple of years time also. But those three lines.
All right. No, that's I think, Kabir, you like condensed so much. I'm going to take some time unpacking most of this. You guys
have talk really quickly. Sorry.
You guys have become a verb. How does that feel? One of your investors, Google, is probably the other one in India, which could be called a verb. Let's Dunzo it. And I mean, I use it very frequently. A lot of people use it. How does it feel? Can you engineer it? I mean, I don't think you can, but would be curious to get your thoughts.
No, so when we were picking the name, right, we figured that it had to be something that could become a verb at some point of time. So it had to be short, and there were other options, which of course domain names were too expensive. Or not available, yeah. Right? So we picked something that would actually go ahead and be a verb, was available and stuff like that. So you could dunzo something, right? But I don't think there was ever like a conscious choice or an effort to try and make it happen. We would just use it when we were actually delivering stuff, right? I think it organically happened. Customers started using it a lot more. In fact, one of my favorite moments in all of this is we were moving into a new co-working space, and I was taking a phone call outside it, and we were a small team. We were like 10 people, 12 people, right? This is 18, I think, at some point, or 17 late. And there was somebody who was outside. So I was taking a phone call, and somebody on the outside on the streets telling somebody on the phone, "So danzo kar dena," right? And I was like, not bad, yeah. Just a sweet moment to always remember. So no, I think people have used it in a particular fashion, and I think just us consistently delivering has helped. Just every day going out there and delivering to customers.
Right. And one of the observations that we had made was, you guys you're not only competing with Swiggy, but you're also competing with Amazon on a certain level, right? They are the everything store, but the thing you guys have solved is that last mile delivery, very quick, which Amazon is trying to do, but they can't. Do you think that's a good comparison? Do you plan to become like the Amazon for everyday stuff, because of the network you've built? And it's quite powerful, actually. For example, my dad was ordering something from Amazon, and then he looked for the same thing and he got it somewhere in the city we live, right? And at 100 rupees less, and he dunzoed it rather than buying it on Amazon. So things like that, it's a consideration set which did not exist earlier. I mean, it's probably a tangential question, but do you think about it? Do you think that's somewhere in your roadmap? You mentioned $1 trillion of purchases, so you obviously will end up competing with Amazon at some point.
Not a segue at all, by the way. That's where it goes, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally, what has happened with e-commerce in this country is e-commerce solved for access.
Right.
It didn't solve for convenience, right? So it's not actually more convenient to buy from an e-commerce platform today.
Right.
Globally though, it solves for access and convenience. Given the density of Indian cities, it solves for a lot more of access than convenience at all. And so with the infrastructure that we end up getting in place, right? With the delivery partners, with more stores coming online, with more assortment coming online. We don't think everything moves, of course, right? Not everything is required to come instantly, or we will even be price competitive in all cases. But Amazon today lists about 20 million products on their site, I believe. Right? They claim 2 crore odd products.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, they have a Pareto. I'm sure they do. Every platform does. Even we do. We believe that a good 50,000-60,000 SKUs, right, which are the most important SKUs in your life. Some of them, which I don't think an Amazon actually does a good job of at all today, right? And then another 25,000-30,000 that they do a good job of because of convenience, those will most likely move into a scenario where you can get them delivered in 60 minutes time. Because that's principally where the world is going, right? Why would you want something at a more which can come faster and pretty much at the same price point?
Right.
Why would you not pick that? So 100% bound to happen. Not that we don't assume televisions, etc., are getting delivered, right? Nor are we assuming mobile phones coming onto hyper delivery platforms. But should your latest bookseller like a Chetan Bhagat get delivered? Of course, right? Should your lightning cable get delivered? Of course, right? Because those are things that you keep running out of. Earphones, of course, right? But I think 100% it's bound to happen, and it is. It's also, I think, the best way to think about the world. You are chasing a really tiny market if Amazon doesn't compete with you.
Right. It's a great line. I think in the lockdown and pandemic, you guys must have seen a huge surge. And that'd be the closing question before we ask the unfiltered feedback one. How did you manage that kind of demand? Because it probably was insane. I remember a time when the only way to get access to anything was through Dunzo. Even Amazon and Flipkart did not work.
I think so. I'm going to call the fact that we got a little lucky, right? Because we went ahead and set up our supply chain differently. Our supply chains, set up as delivery partners who are gig workers and on bikes. Right? They're in the city. This is not really large form factors that are moving around in the city. I think there was a lot of understanding from the local authorities that if they wanted to keep lakhs of people at home, they needed to be able to take the chance that thousands of people were at least delivering to them. Right, and the best chance of containing the problem was if they could go ahead and create a delivery infrastructure that was allowed by them, and so they moved really swiftly to go ahead and allow for it. So really kudos to them. The second part was, again, our supply chain wasn't built on the fact that there are these warehouses that are outside the city that are going ahead and delivering stuff and all of that. We work with local merchants, and those local merchants again were people who the authorities had to keep open, because, like, let's be honest, like, how will we function in our cities if those stores are not open? And so I think we got lucky in both of those cases, where we were able to go ahead and expand our overall business by multiples during that period. But I'll be honest, at the end of the day, it was just showing up every day. It's been really tough the last 14 months, and the whole idea that every city team of ours, right, everybody in our operations team, everybody in our engineering team, etc., also has gone ahead and pushed product features to go ahead and manage all of this. I think it's just been people showing up every day. And making sure that we count for all of our customers, partners, and merchants. We don't show up for our customers, they will have to go ahead and figure out an alternative way to do something. We don't show up for our partners, suddenly their earnings will go ahead and drop. We don't show up for our merchants, then suddenly in an environment where delivery becomes the first way that they can go ahead and have revenue, they won't have revenue, where like 60-70% of what could be what you call delivery revenue doesn't exist. And so from our perspective, we literally looked at it as a duty in terms of saying we need to be able to show up, because if we don't show up, then it is just unfair to both of all three of our users, partners, and merchants.
Fantastic, and thanks a lot to you, your teams, and the folks on ground. And it's a great place to end. The one final question we ask all our guests is, what's one piece of unfiltered feedback you received as a founder or as, when you were working, which really changed the way you look at things? And we like brutal answers, brutal, honest, which you have been in this conversation. But something that you can leave our listeners with.
Feedback or advice that I've got?
Advice, feedback, yeah, advice.
Then I got two,
Sure.
right? On advice, the best one that I've gotten is, or I think I've read somewhere, etc., was that nothing worth doing is easy. It's something that consistently stays together. Saying like, if it was supposed to be easy, then everybody would do it. So,
Right.
Like, it's not supposed to be easy. It's a privilege to take an idea and be able to build businesses around it, and for customers to love it, and for team members to come and actually give their soul and life to something like this. It is such a privilege to actually do that, right? And so if it was supposed to be easy, then yeah, it's not supposed to be easy, just period, right? The other piece of feedback which I think is changed my life over the last 2.5 years was the number one job of a founder is to not run out of money.
No, absolutely.
Product, business, consumers, all of that, great. But your job is to not run out of money. Yeah. And so now about 60-70% of my job is fundraising. So yeah, learned it from people who taught me. So those two.
Thanks a lot, Kabir.